I guess important for the intellectual world is somebody who opens up space in mind, who opens up people's ideas.
He has some magical powers.
We decided not to include any pre-existing footage on his life. We rejected any material from the talkie shows, from 60 Minutes.
At the end of the 20th century, you got your choice. You can say, all right, either Western science has actually figured some things out, or it hasn't. And if it hasn't figured things out, you've got to ask yourself how in the world you're taking pictures of me with that instrument in your hands, all right? And so that's absurd.
I don't care if he's Marxist, communist, democratic, whatever, he's still a sexist, you know, I'm sorry, but that's kind of the way I feel.
I know his books are being sold in 5 continents.
As our parents used to say, you can't argue with success.
Stop flattering yourself into thinking that you're above the world.
Spanish, Portuguese, French.
I think he should consider more other philosophers and try to explain his way of thinking more to other famous philosophers. That probably would make him more stable in the society and in history.
This is an introduction to his life. Not a general portrait of all his philosophical system, which is very complex.
You're looking for meaning? The religions have done that. They've done all that.
As a person of faith, it's hard to agree with the statement, because I'm religious and I'm coming out from a religious tradition. So everything what I would say is of course related. I can't talk separate and separate myself from myself.
It's like with you, I'd say, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll get rid of all your Wells films, right? Burn them all up, right? All the greats, well, get rid of that, all that stuff, you know, the whole thing. I'll get rid of it for you, so nobody remembers it, and then you can do all those things if you want, because the space will be available for you.
To walk in circles.
Well, I was born to a couple of parents who had waited a long, long time because of the Depression to get married, so when I came along in 1938, that was it. Father was 39 years old when I was born. I don't have any brothers and sisters. Second generation, basically. My grandmother and my grandfather and people like that had come over from here.
Where did you grow up?
About 20 miles south of Boston.
Boston?
Yeah.
What was the environment? Did you like?
Well, when I grew up, where I lived was very woodsy and rural, and now there are real houses there. And my father was still living there in 1938. Mother and father died just last year, and so I was up there, but now that's so. And there's really no reason for me to go up there again. From the local high school to a prep school, like Germantown Academy, and except that it's called their academy. And so my last 2 years, which are really important, the people you graduate with, they're from there. I asked me if I would like to do it all over again, and I say, would I have to go through adolescence? And if I would, I wouldn't do it again. The most unhappy time of my life, I didn't get along at home, an unhappy teenager. And I never really got myself settled down, so I felt real comfortable with myself until I get married.
The totems represent for me what an ideal society should be, where everybody is looking at each other because nobody is in the center.
Well, of course, I like sports. When you got into high school, you had to be a football player. Sore hips and sore shoulders and so on. A lot of that is a tall, skinny kid trying to be a football player. What you get imprinted on in this country when you grow up as a kid in a normal life like that is sports. They have a reality. I mean, there's a long piece of sociology about that. There are some people who live their whole lives through sports in this country. So, and oddly enough, many of them never were very good at it, never did play on the team or anything like that. Let's go this way.
This way?
Yeah. Football fans' culture and basketball fans' culture and so on. And that's why you see the major, most well-known figures are, this is the edge we need to go to. It's a hard edge. And it's a hard edge between Philadelphia, which ends right there, and Temple University, which starts right here. Between here and there, it's practically palpable, and you can feel it in the behavior of, say, the kids that come across. They're in some ways welcome, but not. But they change the way they act when they come across here and so on. But you know, in the end, it's their university. So that's what it is—a country of opportunity. Freedoms are
doesn't exist.
Never been. Well, it doesn't exist. It's silly to say, but I mean, freedoms exist because for a number of reasons. But they're not primarily on the agenda. It's the opportunities that are primarily on the agenda. I keep saying there's only two words in politics: jobs and taxes, and those are words that are not connected with freedom. And so, to get rich and to have a good, cushy middle-class life is what this place has been all about forever.
America is not the only continent in the world. I mean, there are other continents as well, and not everything should be judged by the level how like America is doing. I think you should look at other continents as well and see how roles are played out there.
I think basically it's a matter of lack of knowledge. I'm sure that basically they have very little knowledge of Brazilian philosophers or Argentinian philosophers or any Latin American philosophers for that matter.
In the beginning, all the world was America. More so then than it is now. And what he really meant was, they didn't pay any attention to the people here, of course. So what that meant was, there is nothing but great land to farm and resources, and it's been being exploited ever since. And that's a tradition of opportunity, and that's why it's so difficult, for example, to protect national forests.
That's a generalization in the areas of ecology. Developed cities and developed agriculture, whereby you have so many people that are basically economically deprived and also in need of the closest thing they can possibly get to make their life better. And what they see right now is the rainforest.
Virgil responds to him, "Non uomo già fui." No, not a man, but I was a man. I learned Marx at arm's length. I learned it in a context where I could accept and reject it at my will, and still do. So I was free with Marx, in a way that some other generations weren't.
Well, I'm a true communist. He thinks he's a communist, but I really am. I mean, yes, it is fascist, and fascism is very male-dominated. Communism, and I've told this to him before, and he thought I was an idiot, but that's his opinion.
I keep saying that. Now, Marx would kill to know would have killed to know what I know. The political context in which you work them out is very different from the one now. There's not going to be a proletarian revolution. My grandmother was an immigrant and had become more Americans than the Americans, as German immigrants tended to do, and so on. And she was a rabid McCarthyite.
It's like really against women. He shouldn't do that. It's like half of the population that he's condemning with doing that.
I think he thinks he's liberal. He said he used to be a conservative, now he's liberal.
Maybe he's not right, but who is right, who is wrong?
I went to Brandeis, of course, in about 57. And then I ran into people who were so much more politically sophisticated than I was that I wasn't even in the same league that they were. It was a very, very intelligent political place to be. Camus' The Stranger in French, German, Italian, and English. Okay, and in terms of an English one, I've read 3 or 4 different translations. Now, I'd been reading English translations for a long time, and I swear I didn't understand that book. My first going through McCarthyism was I didn't understand what it was. My first going through the 60s, I didn't understand what it was.
Actually, I'm very angry when I start talking about economy. I have to talk about capitalism, I guess, and this makes me really angry. Makes me angry, you know?
My political awareness was enormously better than a lot of people's was. But on the other hand, there were lots of perspectives I couldn't have, and I understood the 60s a hell of a lot better after I came back from Rome than I did before I went. Because you have to see this place from Europe to see what it looks like, to see what the dynamics really are.
60 Minutes excerpt, I think, served him well, but I think these other things that he's done and the way he's been presented it within the context of some of these shows has cheapened what he was trying to offer.
My sense of life changed. My interests had changed. What I thought was important and what wasn't important had all changed. In retrospect, I was already drifting away from philosophy at a certain rate. If I had my choice, see, I would teach a philosophy course and I'd never say anything. We'd just do this and we'd do that and we'd do something else and so on. And the point would come across in the doing of it. I'm saying to you, forget it. Those aren't available. They're not, they're not there. And you see that art used in a mundane and banal way all the time. And you would like to think that possibly there's a way to transcend that banality and so on, to make something that has some meaning to it rather than that. Mm-hmm. And so you say, don't you philosophers think that you can make something that has some meaning beyond, what we see around you? And what is there to be discovered? Everything that gets learned moves you away from all those old transcendental answers.
Just because they read his book and think he's popular doesn't necessarily mean that it's important to Germany.
And I said, all right, 2,500 years of intelligent activity, and you haven't got it right yet.
They have the right to challenge our concepts or thoughts, but based upon a premise, not based upon an emotional premise.
I think you shouldn't put a sticker on people like he's a philosopher, so he shouldn't do not
to reduce him to that.
Yeah. I think it's good to be very open to many things.
There's got to be something wrong with the enterprise. See, that's my view on it, right? Okay, it's one thing for Plato to have not solved these, right? Because that was just at the beginning. and all that. But for you, 2,500 years later, to still be asking the same questions in the same way and still be failing at getting answers in the same way, you know, what else would you do for 2,500 years and fail?
The truth is, I think he thinks that he's so open-minded, he thinks he's so Marxist. The truth is, he's more, it's just another word, another title for male-dominated.
I don't know if what he is, if quote-unquote teaching now, is worth hearing about.
And without the images, there's nothing.
I feel bad is a relevant term, but the bad, sweet, good, tall, that's his generalization of an idea.
Quando vidi costui nel grande deserto, miserere di me, gridai a lui. Qual che tu sii, o l'ombra, o l'uomo, certo.
Are you a shade or are you a man?